Alright, YouTube, I've already gotten comfy. I have to go out in a few hours, and of course I've got to do my runescaping. So this is just a fairly quick video, politics related. If you're not in the state of Vermont or around Vermont, you probably don't know who any of these people are. You know, Bernie Sanders is from Vermont, Howard Dean, that's probably the only Vermonters that you actually know of. You don't know who Ethan Allen was, or maybe John Deere or something like that. But it's time to give my endorsements on the state races, that is, for the governor, lieutenant governor, specifically the Rutland County senators that go and actually take part in our own state government. I figured it was time to do that. Now, I'm assuming that a fairly slim number of my subscribers are actually Vermonters. I think at most 3 or 4 people. Which is kind of funny because somebody in Turkmenistan probably watches my videos more than most Vermonters do, even though I'm actually from here. The internet's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But yeah, it's time to give my endorsements here. For the governor of Vermont, I'm endorsing Phil Scott. I'm not a big fan of Phil Scott. He's Republican. Sue Minter is the Democrat. And then there's that Liberty Union guy, the baseball dude who's a total space cadet. He's like Bernie Sanders on steroids. That's not the direction our state needs to go in. Phil Scott is basically the do-nothing candidate. Sue Minter's the one talking about how Vermont needs to change, but the thing is, the suggestions that she's made for changing our state largely have to do with importing New York City-style gun control. She's basically a female Michael Bloomberg. I don't support that at all. I'd rather have a do-nothing candidate. Life in Vermont is like life in the Shire. We don't have a gun crime problem in Vermont. The biggest problem that we have is drugs, specifically addiction. We could tackle that with a Portuguese drug model. We don't need all that inner city crap to be imported to, let's face it, what essentially is a rural landlocked strip of mountain. That's what our state is. We don't need Bloomberg-style gun control in the state. It's not necessary. We don't have a crime epidemic. The only crime we have here is addiction, and there are ways to solve that other than beating people in the streets or rambling about law-abiding gun owners. So, yes, I endorse Phil Scott for the position of governor, if only to keep Sue Minter out. Because, again, Phil Scott's a dude. It's not that he's a stellar person. He's basically Peter Shumlin light, even though he's a Republican, which is really funny to me. But at the same time, he's not going to do anything. Well, might as well keep on keeping on rather than changing a bunch of stuff and tampering with a system that largely, more or less works. Yeah, taxes are too high in our state, the cost of living's high, but we're surviving. Under Sue Minter, get much, much worse. She's talking about like an enormous fuel tax and everything else to pay for crappy programs. I don't think so. So hopefully we can keep Sue Minter out. Thankfully, I think if Rutland, the bellwether of the state, the sort of swing state part of Vermont, is any indicator, I don't think Sue Minter is going to be elected. So I feel happy about that. I'm going to endorse Boots Wardinsky of the Liberty Union. This is like further left than Bernie Sanders' party. I'm going to endorse him for lieutenant governor, if only because I hate Randy Brock and I hate David Zuckerman. I think they're both like corrupt corporatists in my eyes. So, I mean, it's a throwaway endorsement here because he's not going to win, quite clearly. But at the same time, just as a slap in the face to these other morons that are running for the position. It's just, it's terrible. There's nobody worth voting for there, so I'm just going to throw it away on Boots Wardinsky. I don't even know if Boots is his real name. Maybe this is just some sort of weird cult that I've wandered into. I don't know and I don't care. I'm going to endorse Dan Feliciano for the state auditor's position. The reason being he's a former libertarian, which means he's a Republican now, but he's a former libertarian. It means he has his head screwed on right. He left the Libertarian Party probably while the getting was good because of the takeover of the Johnsonian fake libertarians. So I'm going to give him my respect and the benefit of the doubt on that one without knowing necessarily that much about the people that are involved with this, let's say, less important position within the state. I'm going to endorse Rosemary Jakowski for Vermont Attorney General, another Liberty Union candidate. For no apparent purpose. I think having someone who's like total hippie trippy granola crunching mode as Attorney General is probably a good thing, because then maybe we can stop throwing addicts in prison and we can start actually getting them treatment. That might solve a lot of our problems in this state. On the monetary end and on the crime end, it'd probably solve everything. We would end up being like a little shireling hippie paradise or something. Pretty soon all the idiots from San Francisco would be moving in. Trying to paint everything granola colors, so that might become a problem, but I think in the interim period it'd be pretty good. I'm going to support Scott Milne over Pat Leahy in the Senate, even though it looks like Leahy's a shoo-in. It's time for him to retire. How long has he been in there? Has he done anything of worth mention other than support SOPA? You know, oh yeah, we need to censor the internet more. We need more copyright laws, more DMCA complaints. We need to crack down on this crap because it's going against our establishment bottom line. That dude's completely corrupt, and when he smiles, he looks like one of the Koopas from the Super Mario movie that was released back in the 90s. Look it up for yourself, and you can see where the overlap is. He looks like Bowser or something from that movie. It's creepy. He's old. He appears to now need help just to walk. It's a problem. Now, I thought Milne, of course, wasn't he the dude who ran against Shumlin and technically should have won? But because we're Vermonters and we don't like drama, we didn't whine about it, even though he got the shaft. And thankfully, Peter Shumlin's going to step aside now. Only that, again, it leaves us with do-nothing Phil Scott versus Bloomberg Sue Minter. So not necessarily the greatest situation. But yeah, I'm going to vote for him over Pat Leahy. I'm also never going to vote, if Bernie Sanders runs again, I hope he doesn't, I'm not going to vote for him either. He's sold this state down the river during the election. He refused to stand up for what was right. He refused to stand up against the Clinton machine. He showed he's just another corporate politician. Same as Pat Leahy. Pat Leahy's just honest enough to at least be open about the fact that he's a crazy corporatist. There's no way I can support him. He needs to get kicked to the curb by this state eventually. You know, he's not going to live forever. How many more terms is he going to serve there? Oh, yeah, I'm just going to sit here. He's going to be bedridden, and they're going to have to wheel him into the Senate chamber. It just makes our state look like a laughingstock or something like that. You can tell it's small-town America. We've got some of these perennial people that have been there for so long that they're starting to grow mold. It's becoming a problem. As far as the senators that Rutland will be allocated, got to cross the line here and vote for Cheryl Hooker, who is a Democrat. The main reason being I've met with her personally. I've spoken with her. She was one of my teachers in high school. And I think she's a respectable individual. I'm sure that we could have hours-long debates over actual policy, but let's face it, this is the Vermont Senate. This isn't the U.S. Senate. This is somebody who's going from Rutland to Montpelier. A little bit different story. We don't typically have many problems in this state. Because we're so small, geographically and population-wise, I think our politicians at least feel a little bit more accountable than people in D.C. that often are, 100, 200, 10,000 miles away from their constituents. They live, somebody from Hawaii, and then have fly over to D.C. Oh yeah, I'm going to need to rent an apartment here, obviously. I think I'm a long way from home. I don't think I can make the commute every single day. I think it would sap the life force right out of me. We don't have that problem here in Vermont. It would be even quicker if our road system were actually modern and weren't lingering back in the 1930s or some insane thing like that. But I will endorse her. I'm also endorsing Kevin Mullen and Brian Collmore, who are Republicans. They're also incumbents. But again, I will support Cheryl Hooker for that position. I think this is the third time she's run for it. Maybe third time's a charm. I could be right. It could be the fourth time for all I know. Again, another perennial individual who wants to crack into politics, who's held some of these positions, but that I happen to know personally, that I happen to have actually interacted with. Therefore, I'll endorse her anyway. So yeah, Phil Scott for governor over Sue Minter. Boots Wardinsky for lieutenant governor, because who cares at this point? Yeah, Randy Brock and David Zuckerman, they're both a couple of crazy corporatists. I'm not going to support either one of them. Feliciano, I think he'd do an alright job. Again, he's running for largely nondescript position. I mean, it's almost humorous here in Vermont when we're talking about our politics here, as opposed to maybe like Texas or something like New York. Something where the mayor of New York City is reigning over more people than any politician from Vermont. Even if you combined Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine into one state, the governor of that state would have fewer people under their sort of direct eye than the mayor of New York. So it's a different ball field from D.C. or some of these more urbanized states that are out there. I will say that. But those are my endorsements anyway. Just a fairly quick video here before I get my night started. That's about all. Peace out.